This is TWiT.
There's all sorts of stuff going on in the Apple world. It's losing $1 billion a year, according to Quartz, on Apple TV Plus.
And which
that was
is actually
the information broke that story. But
the information. Let's give the information credit.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And we have to remember that at the same timeline that Netflix was running, they were losing a lot more. Yeah. So this is actually Apple's actually being fairly.
It's normal, is what you're saying.
There's like a balance here. Like number one, all streaming services are finding it hard to struggle. Number two, Apple, unlike the competition, they can absorb that. They don't they're not business, not relying on it. So it's possible they have motives and motivations for that service that go beyond simply having a profitable single streaming service. And third, but Netflix was like inventing a product category. It's probably significant, but maybe not terribly significant, though, that they're spending $5 billion a year, losing $1 billion a year on a service. But nonetheless, the fact that it is it has managed to create a prestige streaming service. It's not just an also-ran. That's pretty significant too. Interesting information, because Apple doesn't give out any data whatsoever, unless it's Severance or Ted Lasso, which has been renewed, by the way, for another season. Super hits. They don't tell any information. So we're every time the information or somebody gets information about exactly the streaming numbers, the viewership numbers, the profitability, that's something to talk about for all week long.
Tim Cook, apparently, this is all from the information. Great, as usual, great scoop from Wayne Ma, who's really good at covering Apple, was asked last year about Apple TV Plus. It's the only Apple subscription service that is losing money, according to two people with direct knowledge of the matter. Mm-hmm. They asked him about Argyle. Remember that? That was the one with the spy and the cat.
Yeah, bad movie.
Bad movie. I really was ready for it. I thought it's going to be great. I love a cat, but no. $200 million to make. Hadn't found much of an audience, according to Wayne, or generated more subscribers, Cook told his colleagues, according to a former Apple TV Plus employee. Subscriptions are 45 million, which ain't bad. I mean, if they're losing money, it's because they're spending money, right?
Yeah, there's some churn going on. I don't think them spending money is a big deal. They seem to be losing less money than they used to, which is also a good direction for them to go in. They also seem to be reducing their spend, especially on the movie side. And when you mention a $200 million movie, it does not take very many expensive movies to lose $1 billion. You can do it real quick. And they've got the money. It's an accounting error for them. They have so much money. So there are a lot of reasons why I think this is not a big deal. As Andy said, Netflix's situation was different, but the cost of content is still enormous. My understanding is Netflix spends more money on licensing catalog titles from other companies than Apple spends on originals today.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the money involved here is enormous. So you see $1 billion and you think, oh my goodness, but it's like it used to be, $1.5 billion that they were losing, and they're spending $5 billion, and they're also cutting back on some of their experiments, like movies that have not worked out for them so much. The one that I saw, and again, everybody's extrapolating because nobody knows, because Apple won't tell anybody anything, is I saw a number that suggested that the churn rate, which is how people kind of come on and then go back off and come on and go back off, that Apple's churn rate for TV Plus is a lot higher than most other services. And honestly, given its limited catalog, even though its catalog's a lot better than it used to be, that's not too surprising. I hear from a lot of people who say, well, yeah, I signed up, I watched Severance, and then I dropped off. And maybe I watched another couple of things while Severance was on, but then I'm done. So that's part of their challenge, is to reduce the churn rate. And then the other data point that came out of this whole sort of like hubbub about Apple TV Plus data is that some very positive numbers about subscription pickup since Apple TV Plus has been available as an Amazon video channel, where you can buy TV Plus and add it to your Amazon package like many others. That was a new thing that Apple did. And it looks like, according to these third-party metrics where they're kind of making guesses, is that Apple has actually had quite a bit of success from that in adding to TV Plus's mix. So, it is kind of the very definition of a hobby, which is that it's a thing you want to do, but you're not making any money and you're probably losing money on it. But I don't find it troubling. And I think, interestingly, the tenor of a lot of these reports in Hollywood circles seems to me to be like, please, Apple, please don't stop spending money. Keep spending money on us. Please keep spending money in Hollywood.
And I know folks that work on Apple, work on some of the Apple productions, and they're like, it's the best. In fact, it's hard to go back.
The catering is excellent.
A friend of mine was working on an Apple one, and then immediately finished and went to Hulu, and he was just like, oh, it was just like playing football on pavement, compared to like, and he said it's not so much that it was like that the catering was better. He said just everything is organized, and there's enough money to do all the things you wanted to do, and you're not constantly, trying to figure out where you're going to get pens, like all those things are kind of managed because there's enough money to do it. But I think that I do often will look at almost everything that Apple releases. I don't really pay much attention to what the other ones are releasing, but I pay a lot of attention to like, what is Apple going to release next? Because I'm going to give it a chance because the quality is so high, and it doesn't mean that they're all like, I watched The Gorge, which was kind of a yawner, like I finally watched it. It took a couple weeks to come around to it. And I think that
you had to be desperate before, but who doesn't love Anna Taylor-Joy? So, right.
It looked like an interesting puzzle. They're
pitching it. They're pitching it with a quote from some sort of weird unknown internet TV reviewer as the hitman rom-com you've been waiting for.
It was right up there with Red Notice. Like that's
that was not great either.
No. I'm just saying, like Red Notice, Gray Man.
Gray Man was a huge money loser for Netflix. That was a $300 million.
But I'm saying from a creative perspective, it's kind of like it's a formula. It kind of like we'll do these things.
It's a formula.
There.
Yeah.
And I think that has not been very successful for Apple, and I think it's not been successful for most of the streamers in general.
And yet Apple has some great shows. I mean, Ted Lasso, Severance, Slow Horses. There's some great stuff on there.
Presumed Innocent. I mean, I thought was really good. I don't know if you saw it or not, but it was
Dark Matter is great. A lot of good ones.
It's just like Jason said. It's like I decided to cancel once I realized that I would have like a 2-week period in which I was like all in streaming something, and then once I'd watched the thing I wanted to watch, I was just not watching it for another couple of months. So like right now I'm planning on renewing for as long as it takes to get caught up on get caught up on Severance. Then I'll probably cancel and then renew again for Ted Lasso season 4 and Severance season 3 and whatever else seems to be nice, and then cancel again. It isn't like Max is the only 2 streaming services I have that are absolutely rock solid for me are YouTube, because the quality of the independent content is so good and such a deep catalog,
and the ads are so horrible.
Exactly, and the ads are so horrible. And Max/HBO Max, because they have so many great movies, not just current movies but old ones. Like as I keep diving in, I never run out of things to watch. But Hulu, Netflix, Apple TV, I can kind of take them for a while and then leave them for a while, and just with the prices keeping going up, it's like I feel like a dope for not.
I wonder what percentage of Apple will never tell us this. Apple TV Plus users are actually subscribed to Apple One and get it as part of a larger package. Yeah. I would not churn because I'm getting also iCloud.
Exactly. That's why I don't entirely believe the churn numbers. And Apple, I've seen some reports about these, and I think it's Antenna Group numbers that suggest that people inside Apple don't think they're entirely accurate because of the way that they're being measured, and that you've got things that are in the bundle and there's all sorts of different ways to get it. But it's worth, I mean, the truth is Apple's business doesn't stand or fall on this. In that way, they're like Prime Video, where they've got
1% of their profit.
It's a teeny tiny bit. And I think the truth is they like being connected to Hollywood. They like getting nominated for awards. They like basking in the glow of it. And also, it serves a purpose. We talked about the last time Apple did their quarterly results, that there's all this talk about the services narrative. And the truth is, Apple's services narrative, which is it keeps growing, it's a huge part of their business. It's more than the Mac and the iPad put together at this point, and growing.
$96 billion.
It's an enormous part of their business. And actually, Apple TV Plus puts a face on that services
true.
line, even though it is a tiny portion of it, because the truth is most of the services is App Store revenue, it's Google kickbacks, it's not, it's Apple Care revenue, it's boring stuff or stuff Apple doesn't want people to talk about. There's a little Apple Music in there, but like the entertainment stuff kind of launders Apple's strategy a little bit in making it be like, oh yeah, services, I get it. Ted Lasso. And it's like, well, Ted Lasso is not throwing off, $20-30 billion, but that's okay.
And it does,
I've
to
seen
your point, I mean, you
people
can
say-
almost call it a marketing budget.
That's in fact Ted Sarandos, one of the CEOs of Netflix, said exactly that. He says, I don't really understand what they're doing. Last week he did an interview with Variety. I don't get what they're doing, but I guess it's good marketing.
Yeah.
He says, I don't understand it beyond a marketing play, but they're really smart people. Maybe they see something we don't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead. You were talking.
All I was going to say is that, sure, but I think that the last three standing, if there gets down to three, it's going to be Apple, Amazon, and Netflix, because Netflix is making so much money and Apple and Amazon don't need to make money. The rest of them are all trying to figure out how to actually make a profit with what they have, but those three don't have to. And I think that is, and I think that, Apple and Amazon can do this forever, and that is that's why I think that there might be there could be a little shade coming from Netflix, because these are the two predators that are not close yet, but they can probably see the trajectory if they just keep dumping money into it.
There is some sense that none of the services on Apple One are quite as good as competing services. iCloud's not as good as Dropbox, and Apple News is not as great as some of the free offerings. And Apple Music the growth is stalled. It's like a third of Spotify. That in every case, Fitness Plus is fine, but there are better standalone fitness applications out there. As a bundle, I think it's good, but Apple Arcade is not bringing people to the table. I can tell you that.
Yeah, the information report also included some information about Apple Arcade, basically saying it's, quote, unlikely to be profitable, unquote, as a standalone service. And also there's a lot of, whereas, look, if you compare Apple Arcade to Apple Music, they keep putting lots and lots of new services into it. They keep putting lots and lots of new stuff in Apple
Classical. Been updated, and we'll talk about that later, because I know you're a fan. Yeah. They added
DJ features to Apple Music, all this sort of stuff. Apple Arcade, however, it's like every time that there's a big announcement about, hey, we're adding X, Y, and Z to this, you look it up, it's like, okay, that's a mobile game that first appeared on iPhone and Android in 2014. There's a really good gaming news site, mobilegamer.biz for .biz. It's actually very good. They did a couple of really good reports talking to people who are working inside that ecosystem, and basically saying the payouts are like dribbling down to nothing. Apple is vindictive if they find that your studio is working with Amazon or anybody else, and they've just about had it. But the thing is, as a value add to the iPhone, as a parent, to say, well, no, I'm not going to give you unfettered access to the App Store to buy the games you want. However, I will let you have this walled garden, this protective sphere in which there are no in-app purchases. Everything's been vetted for kids, and it's not something that I think I need to keep a close eye on. For that, it helps to sell iPhones. So it's not helping to sell, and it helps to sell iPhones. It helps to sell Apple One memberships. We should be talking about whether something could survive on its own or not. It's an interesting discussion. But again, when Apple is a $3.4 trillion company, they have the ability to, unlike Spotify, to keep this thing going just because it helps out with a larger ecosystem. And that's why Netflix, not necessarily scared, but they're aware that Netflix faces challenges in the business community that Apple TV Plus absolutely does not.
Extensions of the brand is a really great way to look at this. Yeah. You could almost say that a lot of these services are the online equivalent of, you go into an Apple store to buy an iPhone, and you could say, no, I don't want a case. I'll go on Amazon, or I'll go find a website that recommends a case and I'll buy a case. But you know what? I'm at the Apple store. Give me the Apple case, and you know that's why. You have AirPods here. Okay, give me the AirPods. And like there is real power in just kind of, and Alex has talked about this a lot on this show, on just sort of like relaxing and falling into the soft embrace of Apple. And it is easier. The products are good. Some of them have better products out there. Some of them don't, but like they're good. They're comfortable. They work really well with all of Apple's stuff. They're integrated. And if you pay a little bit more for them, like if you're willing to pay for that convenience, and they're very profitable for Apple. And that goes for these services too. Like I still pay for Dropbox. iCloud's gotten a lot better. There are still things it doesn't do that I need that Dropbox does. But like I rely on iCloud for more stuff than I used to. I like Apple TV Plus. I have people keep telling me that News Plus is actually way better than it used to be. I don't know if I believe it, but it's out there. I can read Wall Street Journal articles on it. That's nice.
Yeah.
And it's just, but that's part of the way to look at this, is that Apple is playing a big picture game with some of these investments because they just want you to feel good about Apple and Apple stuff and be in the ecosystem and be tied to Apple in every way possible. And they know there's competition and that some of their customers are going to take advantage of the competition, and they're fine with that. They just want to be kind of be in your life in lots of ways and make it easy for you to give them more money.